All right. Hi. Thanks for joining. We're here. It's the night of day 7 of our spiritual juice fast here in the north of Israel with Gabriel Cousens. We just had our last juice of the week, so everyone is very excited because that means tomorrow we get to eat. So I was able to pull Gabriel away for a minute from all the excitement, and I'm lucky enough to have a few minutes to interview you. Thank you very much for your time. Now, a lot of people ask me, why I came here to do this fast, saying to me, Jennifer, you know so much, why are you doing this? And what I want to tell people is I don't know anything, and I always have more to learn from other people, and this week has been a great example of that for me, because putting a spiritual focus on the fast is completely different than just doing a regular colon cleanse, and I think all of us experienced that for ourselves this week. So I'm going to ask you a few questions about that, but my first thing is a little bit more about your method of doing the fast, because I found it very interesting when you explained about fat metabolism and how we really want to trigger that fat metabolism, and that was part of your thinking in taking down the sugar levels in the juice. So can you explain the importance of that?
Yeah, as a physician and as a leader in treating diabetes and healing many, many people, very high percentage of healing, we began to notice something interesting. We began first to try to understand why was our live food, plant source only approach so successful. It's like, you got success, but why? So just the live food, is something else going on. And we began to see that as we did the research, yes, indeed something else is going on. And what's going on is that the deeper cause of diabetes isn't sugar, it's leptin and insulin resistance. What does that mean? Well, leptin resistance means your body is not responding to leptin. Leptin is a primal hormone, and when it's working right, it burns fat. When it's working right, you don't crave sweets. And when it's working right, you don't actually crave food. And so the key here is that what makes leptin resistant, and it is a diet that's high in sweets. I'm talking about fructose and glucose and carbohydrates in general. Now, it's no accident that in the longevity programs, studies that are out there, there's one thing that's common about people who live over 100, and that is having a low fasting insulin. But low fasting insulin and low leptin are like this. So we began to pay attention and say, well, how do we develop a diet and a fasting approach that's going to give you and create a low fasting insulin and low fasting leptin. To do that, we moved away from all fruit juices, which really drive up your leptin and insulin quite high, and we go to just vegetable juices, which we dilute in half. And we have had some very impressive changes within just a few weeks of people who are resistant to leptin and insulin. And again, when you're resistant to leptin, you end up craving sweets, you end up being hungry all the time, and it's hard to lose weight. When we turn that switch off, then you're able to burn fat and lose weight and not crave sweets or food in general.
Thank you very much. It's really interesting when you start to understand the science behind it, and it makes total sense.
Because my work really is, I'm a doctor, I'm a scientist. I look at things. And so I have a different level of expertise. And people read books and they become experts. My experience is I do the work, write the books that people read, but that expertise, we're at the cutting edge. So what you're getting here today in the fast is really very new information. There's no other fast, no other thinking that's really approaching it at that level with that understanding.
So if you were to say in general to people, I know it's hard to say general things, but if someone's making fruit juice at home, would you always recommend that they half it with water?
Well, I wouldn't recommend they have fruit juice.
Yeah, okay.
I got to start somewhere here. But certainly I would dilute it in half, because that's way too much sugar. Now, we used to do that. I mean, we started doing fast in 1988. And we saw people were getting hypoglycemic and very imbalanced, and they weren't actually doing so well. You got to cleanse, but everything else is disordered.
Right.
So we actually began to move to vegetable juices, and then we began to see more about diluting in half. We found that was more optimal. Because fructose is pretty intense, and it really does up your leptin resistance significantly.
Wow.
So that's it, and it also pushes fructose increases your triglycerides, and that's important because people, the medical world today says, well, we don't know how to decrease triglycerides, which are an indication of heart disease. And it's simple. I mean, it's really simple. A live food, low glycemic diet will have a very powerful effect in decreasing your triglycerides and taking you out of the danger zone. And we've seen, one study we did, the average person coming in was a triglyceride of 149, which is high. 3 to 4 weeks later, it was 82. That's safe zone.
Wow.
And so we're looking, we're a little bit of a challenge to the live food movement because we really don't feel that people need so much transition because you really haven't, I mean, it's good to go to live foods, but you haven't dealt with the fact that you're still running a high insulin and a high leptin, and you're not as significantly affecting the general well-being in the same way. It is important to remember that cancer cells need 10 to 50 times more fructose or glucose. Okay? And it's important to know that inflammation is driven also by fructose and glucose.
Absolutely.
So we have to keep that in mind. So we take a position of learning to turn your leptin resistance off so everything tastes sweet. And you don't have to make it so sweet. Because the sweetness in life comes from you.
Thank you.
Okay, good. and not necessarily from how much sweet you take into your food. And so we feel, look, our concern is live foods for health and rejuvenation, and we put less emphasis on what people call transitioning. Because live food stands on its own. It works because it's great, and the good feeling goes beyond the taste of the food. It goes into how well you feel. That's what our interest is. So ours is a slightly different approach, and so that's why we focus on the phase 1 diet.
I think it's great. I think it's great for people to experience that for themselves, because I know for myself this week I could really feel when that fat metabolism was coming in, and it really is a different feeling than being on a fast with a lot of fruit juices. Right. It really is. A lot of the time we've spent here this week, we've done a lot of meditation, we've done a lot of spiritual talks, and that really is what I think makes this fast so complete here. And you're so knowledgeable about the Torah and the Kabbalah. It's amazing. I mean, he knows just as much, if not more, than the Israelis here, who have this around them their whole lives. As I listen to you so many times, I couldn't help but wonder, where did you find the time to learn this?
One of the advantages of live food is you don't need to sleep quite so much. But I study, and so I also lived in India for 7 years. So I'm really well trained in yoga, and that's where I am empowered to give Shaktipat and awaken Kundalini. So our view of a spiritual fast is different than a regular fast, which you already pointed out.
Right.
Is it is about awakening to the spiritual truth, the divine truth of who you are. And we really consider it a rebirth. And so our fasts are really unique in the world in that way because the focus is you're really here to wake up on every level, and you were here to purify physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. So it's like it's a very comprehensive, holistic kind of point of view, not in word but in practice.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people are surprised. Whoa, this is a real spiritual breakthrough for me. That's really the ultimate purpose, and that's the way fasting used to be. The great masters all fasted.
Sure.
Pythagoras, who really was a key player in the live foods, 500 BC, but he was the key player. He learned from the Essenes, and it said he studied Mount Carmel and became enlightened and began teaching live foods. He used to have people fast for 40 days before they could even participate in his teachings.
That's right.
And so fasting is always about spirituality. Now people think, oh, it's about detox. No, it's about every level of function, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritually. And yes, there's a physical detox, but there's also an emotional detox.